Your audio is on mute, Pawan. Can't hear you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Zoom parenting sessions. And today we are going to talk about 5 insights into Montessori education. We also have on call my colleague and co-founder Munira Hussain and Nudula, who's our elementary coordinator. And all three of us are going to give you some very interesting insights into Montessori system of education, and that will also give you some insights into understanding your child better. All right. So over to you, Munira.
Thank you so much, Pawan. And welcome everybody to our Zoom session where we've been talking a lot about child development and a lot to do about how do you, support your children at home, how do you keep them engaged at home. So today we are going to speak about the Montessori education system. So all this while, everything that we have spoken about, I can say that our inspiration and all our learning and understanding comes from what we understand about the Montessori system of education. That is also what we follow in the school Blue Blocks. So I'm going to let you know more about Montessori and the system of education. But even before I move ahead, let me ask you, what do you think is Montessori? So anybody who would like to answer, you can unmute yourself and answer as to what you think is Montessori. Yeah, anybody who would have any idea about Montessori? I know some of the parents on this call are Blue Blocks parents, so you can also answer.
It's creative learning.
Creative learning, very well said. What else?
It's a self-learning methodology.
Self-learning methodology, excellent. What else is Montessori?
It's freedom to explore and giving an environment where the child can self-learn.
Excellent. So it is a methodology where the child experiences the freedom to learn and explore, and it helps the child learn on his own. It's a self-learning system. Excellent, Bandhavi. Thank you so much. What else is Montessori? Does anybody?
It's a child-based learning through sensory modalities.
Fantastic. So using the sensorial developments, the sensorial inputs, we help children with self-learning. Excellent. What else? And it is a child-centric system. Very right. I'm going to talk a little more about that soon.
A freedom of independence giving to the child.
So it is a system where the child experiences freedom and that leads towards independence. Very well said. Thank you. So let me give you a little more about Montessori. Let me actually introduce Montessori to you. So Montessori's system of education is everything that all of you have mentioned very rightly. In fact, bang on, most of you all have spoken about, what Montessori system is. But Montessori is nothing but a name of a person. So there was this lady, more than 110 years ago. I'm sure she was way ahead of her times and her age. So somewhere in the late 1800s, Dr. Maria Montessori was the first lady doctor in Italy. And since she was the first lady doctor, she had to go through a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties in her life to really establish herself as somebody who really means good to the society. So Dr. Montessori observed children for many years. She observed children in different circumstances, in different scenarios, in different places, because since she was the only lady doctor available to a lot of places. Mostly she was sent to take care of the women, and women were always accompanied by a lot of children. So as part of her work, she observed children very closely. And as she observed children, she realized that children had a lot of needs, especially the needs to explore the world using their hands and senses. that is what got her interested to know more about children. In fact, children fascinated her. They were like a mystery, and she was appalled by the way they were being treated in schools, in centers. There were a lot of centers back then where children were left so that parents could go and work, especially after the Industrial Revolution. So she observed children a lot. And when she started observing and working with children, she started looking at their needs, their requirements, and she started providing them with certain material that she would make. Now, you can understand that if somebody became a doctor in literally a man's world a century ago, she had a very clear scientific bent of mind. So she looked at everything from a very scientific perspective. She didn't go just by her instincts or by her emotions. So she would create certain materials for children, give it to them, see how they were working with the material, observe them again. And if children rejected the material, she would not get upset. She started, reworking on the material and started, giving it to them once again. So there was this group of children that she was assigned by the government, and she was taking care of these children, and they were they were all underprivileged children. So they were in a home where there weren't too many things available to them. The only access they had was to food and some of the materials that Dr. Montessori was preparing for them and giving it to them. So after a few months of she working with these children and she asking for financial aid from the government suddenly woke up and they were like, why is this lady asking for all this help, financial help? Probably, we should check what she's doing. And when they saw that she was getting these children to do some kind of learning, they were like, they wanted to actually negate all her work, and they didn't want to recognize it. They didn't want to give it any credit. So they asked Dr. Montessori's children in that home to take the regular school exam, which children of a public school would take. Now, these children took that exam, and guess what? They fared better than children going to regular schools. Now, that was, a day that Dr. Montessori should have really rejoiced, but it pained her. It actually made her very, very sad that what was going wrong with the regular system of education, that the children who did not go to a normal school fared better than children who actually went to regular school. And that is where her recognition came in. That is where the government started recognizing her work and started providing her more financial aid to work, to travel all over the world, and to, basically develop her system. So this did not happen overnight. It took 25 years of keen observation of children, one-on-one work with children, working with children on a day-to-day basis, working with a lot of adults on a day-to-day basis. With all of this extensive work that Dr. Montessori put in is how she finally arrived at the Montessori system of education. So the Montessori system, as we know it today, is not a system that was created in a boardroom by a few men and women with gray hair who felt that, okay, this is what children should be learning, or this is what education should be about. This was a system that was developed over a period of more than 2 decades of a lady with a scientific bent of mind who only observed children and provided whatever needs that they showed her. So she literally followed children. She kept giving credit in all her work. If you were to read any of it, you would see that she never took credit for her system. She always said that the children led me to it. She always said that it was the children who brought me to understand who they were. So the credit was always given to the children, and she never ever took the credit for herself. So this was the genius of Dr. Montessori. This was the amazing personality of Dr. Montessori. And her system is so foolproof. It is so well bound because it caters to the needs of the little child. It is not what an adult wants. It is what the children want. So the first insight into Montessori education that I'm going to talk about today is how the Montessori system is a child-centric methodology, a child-centric system. So I'm going to quickly share screen and show you, what we mean by that. So first thing that I'm going to talk about is child-centric system. And what do we mean by a child-centric system? By a child-centric system, we mean that a system which is adapted to the needs of the children. So even before a system became child-centric, one had to understand what were the needs of children, young children, children from the age of 0 to 6 years, children from the age of 6 to 12 years, children from the age of 12 to 18 years. So Dr. Montessori divided her system into she divided the phases or the range of development into 4 planes. She calls them the 4 planes of development. The first plane of development is the 0 to 6 year age group. Second plane of development is 6 to 12 year age group. Third plane of development is 12 to 18, and then 18 to 24. These are the phases in which development happens. And the 0 to 6 year phase is a phase of very high pedagogical significance, because this is the time the child is learning language. This is the time the movement is developing. This is the time social personality is coming around. So it's very important to understand that during this age, if we are to provide a system which the child can relate to, the child can understand, then that is a real child-centric system. Now, this child-centric system is not just adapted to the child's needs, the child's rhythm, or the children's individuality, but it is also made child size. So all the materials that you see in a Montessori environment is all child size equipments, child size materials. So Dr. Montessori had this amazing insight. She saw, when she looked at children and she looked at the world around them, she felt that children experienced being alienated in an adult's world. She felt that the whole world was surrounded by objects which were only made to suit the needs of adults. There was nothing that was made to suit the needs of children. So that's where she developed scientific didactic material. So if you were to again read a lot of the Montessori work, then you will find this terminology used very frequently. It's called didactic material, and it is scientific. So the first thing she did with the materials that she provided to children, that she made them available to their hands and senses. And how tiny are their hands between the ages 0 to 6? Very small. She saw that children wanted to touch and feel everything. So she created material which would fulfill on the children's sensorial needs. Because we have heard so much about sensorial development in the last few weeks, that we know that anything and everything that is given to the hands and the senses is what is reaching the child's intellect. Anything and everything that is not given to the hands and senses is not reaching the child's intellect. It is not going to remain with the child for a long time. So all the materials, all the activities that we have in the environments are all given through scientific material. Now, what do we mean by this word didactic? What is didactic? Didactic means material that teaches the child. A kind of material for which the child does not require any control of error from an adult. So the child does not require an adult to correct his work. The child can correct his work by purely working with the material. So in the 0 to 6 year age group, there is a lot of material for practical life activities, and all these materials which we use for care of self, care of environment, food-based activities are all regionally aligned. So Dr. Montessori said something very interesting. She said that when we are looking at educating children, this education has to be an aid for life. It should support child to have the right skills that will help him or her live his life comfortably. So that is the reason we give all these practical life activities. And what are these practical life activities? The day-to-day activities that we do. And each of these activities are very aligned to a certain region, a certain geographical location, a certain culture. So for example, so I'm wearing this outfit, and the way I tie this knot here is a very typical way in which we tie the knot. Now, this is something which my children would know because they are used to seeing me do it on a daily basis. And that is very, very important and very essential for them to understand and know because it is available in their environment. Similarly, all other activities, like if you see how sweeping and mopping happens in India versus how sweeping and mopping happens in another country. So children going to a Montessori school, let's say in Japan, versus children in Montessori school going to a Montessori school in India, will be learning the same skills of taking care of their environment, but using different equipments. So she believed that the materials should be regionally aligned. So we have some very interesting materials, like we have rangoli making in our environment. We have something called sandalwood paste making, because these are very cultural aspects of our Indian system. And that is what we give to children. Now, all the other materials, so when we talk about the sensorial activities, if you look at the sensorial material, the way they have been designed, every material has a certain scientific background to it. So we have a tower, which is the famous pink tower of the Montessori materials, which has 10 cubes of different sizes, which child has to grade from the biggest cube to the tiniest cube, correct? Now the dimension of the largest cube is 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. And the tiniest cube is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, okay? Now these dimensions are repeated in every sensorial dimension material that children work with, so that the metric system, the basis of the decimal system, the base 10, is getting consolidated every time the children are touching and feeling this material. Now, the same cube of 1 by 1 by 1 centimeter is used much later when children are being introduced to the decimal system, where that tiniest cube is related to a unit. So the material has a lot of common factors which run through the ages, so that children are getting used to that first at the sensorial level and then eventually at the more abstract level. So every material is scientifically created and the material has a control in itself. So the child does not require an adult to correct him. Hence, the way he takes to the material is very beautiful. It's like the material is his best friend. So children actually love the materials in the Montessori environment more than the adults sometimes, because it is the material which never fails them. It is a material which provides comfort and solace to them. So there's a lot of emotional development that is happening when children work with these materials as well. All right. Now, along with these inputs, these insights, like along with these very important and integral aspects of the Montessori system of education, there is something else that Dr. Montessori spoke about. And that is how, along with having the right kind of environment, along with having the right kind of material, there has to be somebody in that environment who works as a catalyst, or who works as a link between this material and the child. And this link is the Montessori guide or the Montessori directress. So the Montessori training is a very intense and deep training that happens at not just at an academic level for adults, but it is happening more at the emotional and at the spiritual level. So I can say this very comfortably for all three of us, for Pawan, myself, and Mridula, that each of us were different people before we did the Montessori training. And this training had the capacity to change all of us. So it changed Pawan from a businessman to an educator. It changed me from somebody who knew everything about child psychology to really reaching a point where I felt I had so much more to learn. And Mrudula comes from a journalism background, so it completely altered her from being a journalist to somebody who fell in love with the system of education. So it is the Montessori training which takes care of the preparation of this Montessori adult who is going to work as a link between the material and the child, who is going to identify the needs of the child and provide the material according to that, who is going to maintain the environment. So what does this Montessori adult have to have? Who is this Montessori adult or a Montessori guide? So this person, this individual who works as a Montessori guide goes through several levels of preparation. There is a physical level of preparation, there's a psychological level of preparation, there's an emotional level of preparation, and there is a spiritual preparation that has to happen before a person actually starts working with children in the environment. So I remember with the 3 to 6 year training that we took, our trainer would constantly tell us that children are always watching you. So you have to catch yourself. You have to be very particular with the way you are walking, the way you are talking. What is it that you want your children to observe and pick up? So you have to behave, you have to be in that way all the time without any exceptions. So we were given training on how to tie our hair, on how to tie our dupatta so that they are not flowing around. We were given a training on how to walk on a certain line, how to walk in a way that does not obstruct anybody. So all this physical training that we went through actually helped us become those calm and very composed individuals in front of children, because children require that. Children need you to be those adults who will not interfere with their development. Children need you to be those adults who will understand their needs and who will immediately provide those needs, but also give you enough freedom and take a back seat when required. So it's a very, I would again say, it's a very intense training that one goes through, and it is transformational in a way. So that's about the physical training. So there is a lot of emotional training that we go through as well. And as part of our training, there is at least 2 to 3 weeks of observation that we have to do of children. And this observation is where we are in a classroom with a book and a pen, sitting in one place and constantly writing our observations. We have to document our observation. And you know how it is? It's like we have to select 2 children in the classroom, and then we have to observe what each of these 2 children are doing. And every minute we have to note down what they are doing at that moment. So we write things like, the child has taken a material and sat down. He's now looking at the material. He's now touching the material. He's now, moving the material from one place to another. So every moment, and when we were doing these observations, obviously we found it very hard to sit in one place. We found it very difficult to stop ourselves from probably helping children or reacting. But we realized that it was this lengthy observation period that we had which actually helped us understand that when a Montessori guide is in the environment, her role, his or her role, is not to interfere with the child's development, but to be there to just support, guide, and nurture those developments at the right time, and to be those non-judgmental individuals which children require. So if you look at the relationship between a Montessori guide and the child, it is more like they are friends. Children do not relate to the guides as a teacher and somebody to look up to or somebody to be scared of, but they really know that this person understands me completely, and I can be completely self-expressed with this person. I can just express my emotions and thoughts and my feelings to this person very comfortably. So that training takes a lot. So there is the AMI, which is the Association Montessori International, based in Netherlands. They offer 4 different kinds of training. So there is a 0 to 3 year training, the 3 to 6 year training, the 6 to 12 year training, and the 12 to 18 year training. So Montessori is not just preschool. Montessori starts even before birth and goes up to 18 years. That's how the Montessori system of education is widespread. Getting that? Great. So I would like to, at this point, invite Pawan to add to the insights into the Montessori education. So Pawan, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Munira. Can you remove the screen share, please?
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting insights into Montessori system. Let me take you through how does this system impact the child's mind. So I'm going to share something on the screen. So I've been sharing. Can you see this visual on screen, Munira? Yeah. So I have been showing this visual to you a couple of times. I've shown in these sessions. Now this really summarizes the impact on the child's mind in the first 6 years. This visual will help you understand how the education has to be given through the child's hands and senses. If you look at, this is the proportion of the body parts in the brain. If you look at majority of the neural structure of different parts of the body, if you see, is catering to the hands. Hands occupy 60% of the neural patterns out of 100% of the proportion to the different parts of the body. And in the first 6 years specifically, everything is given to the child's hands and senses. One of the golden rule which Dr. Maria Montessori gave us is, particularly in the first 6 years, do not give anything to the child directly to the child's mind. Always reach out to the child's mind through his hands and senses. So this is like the golden rule for every activity we introduce in Montessori, either with the Montessori material or any other material which we design. We always try and cater to the child's need to explore the world with his hands and senses. This system also supports and stimulates every aspect of the brain. You would have heard of multiple intelligences. This caters to the body and kinesthetic. So I'll show you one video at the end of this part where you will see how there is so much of movement involved in every activity they do. There is a lot of peer development which happens. There's a lot of group work which children get to do. There's a lot of focus on verbal linguistic intelligence. At around 4, the focus starts to shift to the logic reasoning mind. Math is given to cater to logic reasoning analytical mind. How we expose children to nature, like we have designed our own Montessori farm to take children to the farm. We do a lot of interesting farming related activities because it is this nature which stimulates the child's mind the most. There are a lot of interesting activities, like there is a silence activity, group silence activity, which helps children introspect. We begin this kind of introspection very early, right from 2.5, 3 years. There's a lot of material, dimension material, which help them with visual and spatial skills. There's a lot of singing and music which happens in a Montessori classroom. So we not just cater to each of these intelligence, we cater to these intelligence in the proportion in which they want at any specific age. This pedagogy, with all the material which Munira spoke about, be it sensorial material, be it geography material, be it math material, both for 0 to 6 and 6 to 12 program, this program stimulates several interesting ways of thinking, be it lateral thinking, vertical thinking, convergent thinking, divergent thinking, creative thinking, imaginative thinking, design thinking, which will all lead to innovative thinking. This system also supports every aspect of the child development. Like with the insights which you have got into the system, these activities support children's confidence. Like how to build child's confidence. If you just clap every time child does something, that doesn't help confidence. It is the pedagogy which leads to ultimate independence with regard to physical development, emotional, social, and intellectual development, which helps build the child's confidence. By letting children choose the activities builds their willpower. This pedagogy supports the ability to focus and concentrate. Children can focus and concentrate only when the activities they do cater to their developmental needs. And every activity which is introduced is catering to their developmental need, which leads to their ability to focus and concentrate. This system ensures that children can memorize any concept in the best possible manner. See, there are different kinds of memories we understand: short term, medium term, and long term. With pre-primary and elementary, with young children, we are not worried about their short term and medium term memory, because everything we are doing, we want this to help in a very long run. Now, the kind of activities they do, it also supports, the RAM, like the RAM processor in the computer. There is a also that kind of memory, short-term memory, where they hold the information and then work with different activities. Let's talk mainly about how this will help children develop long-term memory, and any activity which you can do at home. How can that help children's long-term memory? So long-term memory can only happen when they do any specific activity multiple times, when they choose the activity all by themselves, when they are exploring and learning things at a multi-sensorial, multi-dimensional level. So every activity which is introduced, if it is catering to their hands, senses, and intellect, and if there is a lot of repetition, that is what will help them memorize. What is important is we giving things to them at that right time in a right manner with a lot of repetition. So what do we mean by right time? We did speak about how when children are interested in vocabulary, they can learn few thousands of words. So that's when we give vocabulary. And then the way we give vocabulary, we want, if we are teaching the name of an object, then if we are calling this scissor, we would want child to hold this. Now, with a young child, I wouldn't introduce scissors like this, but once child knows how to handle it, we would show this and say, this is scissor. These are pair of scissors. So it is the manner in which we introduce the vocabulary is what matters. And what matters is the amount of repetition. The more you repeat, the more it will stimulate their long-term memory. Let me show you a video of the primary environment, which is for the age group of 2.5 to 6 years. You will see this 2.5-year-old child who is working with color tablets. Here, I would want you to see everything which Munira and I spoke about. I want you to see the revelation of everything we just spoke about. I'm inviting you to look at. So if you have noticed, there are a lot of other children in the environment. And yet, irrespective of other children working and there is a decent amount of noise in the environment, you would see that in this 4.5-minute video, not even for a fraction of second, you will see the child will get distracted. It is this material and activity which ensures that children are able to focus and concentrate. So I'm unmuting. I would want some of you to share while the video is on. I would want to hear from you on which aspect. I would want to hear which aspect of whatever Munira and I spoke, which aspect of that are you able to see in this video?
One thing very clear which I can see from the video is like maybe if the same child is left at least with my child, if she is left at home, if I gave a box like that, she would just tilt it upside down and pour it. And and the way the kid is doing that, putting each one separate, it's like amazing. I mean, as I told, even my child goes to a Montessori environment. So I mean, I'm really amazed at the way they handle the material. I don't know what makes them learn that and do that, but then it's really amazing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Mandavi. See, what get them to do is they have this innate ability. There is a lot of inner sense of order, which needs right kind of environment. So the kind of order they see in the environment, the way they see other elder children working with the material so orderly, they absorb and they already have that inner sense of order, which then gets them to practice that order. If they don't see order in the external environment, if they don't have role models in the home environment, then they will go by whatever is convenient and workable. So here in this mixed age group environment, you know, Montessori has all mixed age group children between 2.5 to 6 years will all be in the same environment. This mixed age group creates that opportunity for children to see elder children, and elder children become role model, and then these children follow, and then eventually these children become the role model for the younger ones. That's a very interesting observation. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Who would like to share? Whatever you heard from Munira and me, which aspect of those do you see happening in this? What manifestations of Montessori pedagogy do you see in this video?
The child uses chromatic sense.
Uh-huh. Very interesting.
Child chooses the activity and
Yes. So this activity is catering to child's chromatic sense, which is sense of colors, like each sense. And it's also catering to multiple. So here I want everybody to watch carefully for next 15 seconds. What have you noticed there? Would somebody like to share? What did you notice?
the child solves its own problem.
You saw that there was a real-time problem and a challenge where there was not enough space on the mat. The child saw that the mat was folded, and first child tried to remove the part which is folded, unfolded the mat, and saw if it fits. When it still did not fit, the child knew the activity is about pairing these two colors together. Whether the child put them at the top or the bottom, the activity still remains the same. The child figured that out, put them up, and put it at the bottom. Now, normally, if we as parents were sitting right next to the child, what do you think we would have done? What do you think we would have done? We would have helped, right? Imagine here if the teacher would have helped the child, every time there would be a problem in future, she would always look up to the teacher to come and solve the problem. So our Montessori material is designed such that there are a lot of challenges and they will figure out how to solve them. And most of the material is having its inbuilt control of error. let's say in a cylinder block, if the child is putting one cylinder in a different socket, then at the end, the child is left with one extra cylinder, which will not fit into the wrong socket. So now the child knows that there is something wrong with the material, and then something wrong with the activity the child has done. And then the child is removing all the material again and trying to solve the problem all by himself or herself. Like in the corporate culture, we always keep talking about the problem solving skills. Problem solving skills cannot be developed once you grow up. It has to be developed right here, right at 2, right at 3, right at 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years. All right, great. So I would like Nudula to talk about Montessori perspective from 6 to 12 years.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you, Munira, for the background, the stage that you have set for the rest of the session. I have been off video for some time now, but now I'm going to be off video for a particular reason. I want you guys to just hear me and not see me for the next 2-3 minutes. And I want you to concentrate on what I'm saying. Okay. So once upon a time, there was a young 6-year-old girl who knew not just her ABCs, but also how to write them and write them in cursive. Who knew not just her 1, 2, 3s, but how to count till 1,000,000. But her schooling was just starting. So where does she go? Well, she was taken to a bright classroom and with lots of space and colorful material around. She was allowed to move around, pick up what she felt like working with, and learn how to use it. She was allowed to talk to friends and interact with them. She was allowed to walk around, go drink water whenever she felt like, and have food when she was hungry. She could approach and openly discuss topics and information with the adult. She had a whale of a time every day as she planned what all material she could lay her hands on each day and what new things she could learn. How many of you have actually got an image in your heads of how this girl looks like probably, or what kind of an environment she walked into? You people must have some visual, some image rolling in your head with this story that I've just told you. This is actually the exact tool that we use in the elementary environment when we guide our children towards learning. Because in a 6 to 12 age group, Montessori environment is the best environment that you can give your child in this age group, because it is the time when they are most invested in learning, and this environment provides them the opportunity to do that. Now, I'll just take you through the 5 insights which I've already given in my story, but in a more detailed manner just now. So the 5 insights that I would like to share with you about the Montessori elementary class is that an elementary Montessori class is dependent on 3 things. One is the child itself, then the adult, and then the classroom, or what we call the environment, which is prepared specifically by the adult in keeping in view the needs of the child. Now, these 3 are the so-called pillars, or the 3 vertices of our triangle that defines our Montessori elementary classroom. And this classroom, like I've mentioned in the story, it has a lot of exciting material, exciting new things that the child can learn and understand, and at each day explore. In a Montessori elementary class, we deal with actually 6 subjects. Contrary to many people who may believe that Montessori is more about materials and playing and doing, we actually do a lot of academics, and we do 6 subjects in our elementary classroom as well. We do everything we do English, where we take the children through everything from how to identify a noun to actually talking and discussing and writing book reports on literature. We do a lot of geometry, where the children start with dealing with 2D and 3D shapes to understanding theorems like the Euclid's theorem and the Pythagoras theorem, which you all must be trying to recollect right now when I mention those names. We also do a lot of geography, where we talk to children about not just the states of matter like solids, liquids, and gases, but we also talk to them at a level where these solids, liquids, and gases interact. We talk to them about volcanoes, about how earthquakes are formed, what are plate tectonics. We do all that as well as part of our geography and as part of our 6-year elementary program. We also do a lot of biology, where we talk to children about plants and what plants need. And we also talk to them about the ecosystems of how different plants are surviving and what is their purpose in different ecosystems, and how all animals and humans and everybody are dependent on these plants. So we take them through this gamut of topics, from just the plant to the ecosystem they thrive in. We also talk to them about history, where we talk to the children about a lot of for how the first human being came into this world. And we take the children through the history to how civilizations formed, how our civilization came into place. So this is again a huge art that the children cover in the 6-year period while they are with us in the classroom. And of course, we talk about math. Math is one of the most important topics, not just for parents, but for us as well. So we do a lot of maths. We do a lot of maths in terms of where the children learn everything from basic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, to doing them in different manner, in different concepts. They do all these 4 in fractions. They do all these 4 using decimal fractions. They do all these 4 using different number bases. I don't know if any of you even recollect what different number bases are, where our base is of 10. So they do all this using cube roots and square roots, and we do all that using in our elementary classroom in the 6-year period that we have the children with us. And then we also do a lot of this with the help of our second most important tool. And that, or rather the most important tool that we use to give all this education, is what I have used on you guys just now, the power of imagination, the tool of imagination. This imagination is abundant in the children of this age of 6 to 12. So we give this tool to them with the help of stories. We give them a lot of stories, just like I gave you. This is how exactly a Montessori classroom works, where the children are welcomed into the class and given stories from the get-go. The minute they enter a 6-year-old class, as a 6-year-old, they enter the classroom, they get stories. And this is one of the first, and it is through these stories, through igniting this imagination in them. Because when I gave you that story, you all had a picture formed in your head. All of you had a different picture of them from another. All of you had a different kind of a girl. One of your imagination may have a short-haired girl, another had a long-haired girl. One, she was wearing pants in one, she was wearing a frock in another. So each of us have our own imagination. And this imagination is different for each child as well. So when we give them stories, we give them stories to ignite this imagination, so they have their own perspective that they can bring in and put their own collective intelligence to form a picture and understand and abstract what we want them to abstract. And the first thing, this first story, in fact, that we give, you will be very surprised to know, is the story of how universe formed, or the Big Bang theory as we know it. So we actually, at a 6-year age group, at 6-year-old, when he comes into our classroom, in the first week, he gets the story of how the universe was formed. Because we believe in giving them the whole picture and then slowly moving down to the details of it. From the whole picture, they slowly come to understand how Earth was formed, what all is part of the Earth. So it's a whole to detail approach that we take in our elementary classroom. And we give stories not just in geography, we give stories for language, on how language came to be, how human beings came to be, how life came on Earth, how numbers got their current shape and size and form. And also we give stories on how plants survive. What is the story of flowers? What is pollination? What is the story of behind the names of the months of the year or the days of the week? All these are given in forms of stories all through the years, or all through 6 years. So the active imagination of the child is fed constantly. And then all this imagination which we are instigating will lead to the third insight that I want to share with you about the 6 to 12 environment. And that is, all this imagination where we are constantly feeding results in research. Research is a very, very important aspect of our elementary environment, where whatever the child has got these snippets of information through these stories, he wants to know more. Don't you guys want, once I gave you this story, didn't half of you at least think of, okay, I want to go and see how this class looks. I want to see what is this space that you're talking about. I want to see more. I want to know more. That is the first thing that will come to you when you hear a story. And especially if the story is not fully complete. And that's how we do. We only give necessary and sufficient information to the children. So the children then take over, because each child's need is different. One child wants to know more about maybe just the materials that I mentioned in the classroom, where other child will want to know more about how to get to the school. So, based on their need, the children will now do research. And for this research, the adults are more than capable of only aiding them in finding the right books, giving them the right resources, and helping them carry it forward. This brings me to the fourth point I want to make, the three G's in our elementary environment. Excuse me. And those are group work, great work, and going out. Now, these three G's help in the research of each child. Group work is because each child in the environment classroom works not by himself or herself, but in a group. They share their research, they share their understanding, they talk to each other, they each divide the work. It is unbelievable how much division of work and how equally the labor is divided and work is done. As Pavan was mentioning, we are preparing the children right now. We as adults, I remember when I first learned about how to talk to a group, I was actually training to crack the CAT exam to get into one of the MBA schools. And that's when I was first heard the word group discussion, and that I had to go and learn, how do I speak to the group? How do I interact? How do I raise my hand? How do I make myself heard? How do I put across a point? All this I learned at the age of 18, 19. Whereas our children from the age of 6, when they enter the elementary classroom, are doing this on a daily basis. Every day they are in a group, working together, discussing, collaborating, fighting, because they have to get their point across with each other. But they're understanding how to make themselves heard, how to confidently present themselves, and how to ensure that they can accept another's opinion and also live with that, and get others to understand their side of the things as well. So group work is another very essential aspect of the elementary environment, which goes on every day in the classroom. And this group work, this research, this imagination, all this leads to the great work that we want to see in the children. So when we give a representation on, say, the area of a rectangle is, and of course, if you have to go in depth, we don't give the formula directly. The children arrive at the formula themselves, and they arrive at the formula that the length of area of a rectangle is length taken breadth times, or length into breadth, L into B, as we have learned it in school. Now, if that is what we wanted them to learn from an area lesson, we would be happy. But that's not what we want them to learn. Our great work, or the product of our teaching, should be that the children are able to use this to measure everything and anything they find. And our children are able to do that. We've had children go and measure our basketball court because it is a rectangle. We have children measuring just the scale because it is also a rectangle. We have children measuring the window panes, the corridors, the floor, the area of the floor. All this they are measuring because they understand what area is. And it is not just length and into breadth. Area of a rectangle is length into breadth. That's all we have learned. We have never realized that we can actually use it in real life. So until we came to a post-graduation level, where maybe some of us took engineering, and maybe we may have to use it there. I didn't even do that. So I never thought I'll be able to needed to use it until I decided I have to bake, and I realized I need to know the dimensions of my cake tin to figure out how much cake batter should go in at this age. So our children are able to do all this at 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 years of age. So that is a great work we talk about, which we encourage 100% in the classroom, where the children are asked to go over and beyond, use their imagination, use the knowledge they have gained in the classroom, and apply it and use it. The third one is going out, which is a topic in itself, a session in itself for us, because going out again will help, it provides the children with the incentive to be confident, be independent learners, where they plan a field trip all by themselves, go out, research what they want to research, and come back with, of course, adult supervising the whole trip. But it is entirely end-to-end done by children from ages 6 to 12. This gives them the confidence, first of all, to understand what their needs are, because the answers that they seek, say, for example, they want to know more about the Hyderabad city history. We don't have an entire book on Hyderabad city history in the class. They have to figure out where to get it. So they will go to Golconda Fort to find out more about it. So the end-to-end planning of how to go to Golconda, whom to visit, should we hire a guide, how much money do we need for it? All this is given, all this they do, and they are able to do their own research and find their own answers. And this brings me to the fifth and last insight that I want to share with you about the elementary classroom, and that is cosmic education. We call elementary education cosmic education, because we want to prepare our children to understand their place in the world. Montessori was very clear that this age group children are more than capable of understanding what has gone in the past and what is the present and how the future should look like. And she said that this age group is the right age group for us to let them realize what is their cosmic task in this world, what is that they have put in this universe to do. And this situation that we are currently facing, the COVID-19 situation, is an apt example of that. Now, this age group, with the kind of theory and with the kind of exposure we have been able to give our children, our children are able to come up with solutions on what next, what will life be after COVID. We've had some children come up with examples of having a drone that can go out and do a survey and come back and tell us whether there are enough COVID cases around, that are we safe enough to go and travel. We have children who have come up with posters and information that will tell that is explaining to others on how to live in this new normal that we have found ourselves in. So we talk about cosmic education, and we talk about this age group children as being the people who will take us into the future, the children who are the torch bearers of our future. And we have lived our life in a certain way. We were stuck in a traditional education system, most of us at least. I hope some of you got lucky. But we were stuck in a system. We just followed the path laid down to us and just went ahead, and are sitting in our, right now working from home, but otherwise doing our 9 to 5, 9 to 12 job, 9 to 6 jobs. And we are happy and we are successful. But what if we can give our children that extra that can make them the path breakers? They can make them the path makers, rather, who will pave their own way and pave their own path and be what their potential actually is telling them to be. So that is why education in the elementary environment is constantly talking about what can these children learn now to help themselves make a better future for themselves. How can they be more future relevant is how entire elementary education system is all about. So, Pawan.
Yeah. Thanks, Mrudula, for giving us insights into 6 to 12 elementary age group. All right, so we have 2 minutes. Let's do one thing. Before we formally complete the session, and as we do this every day, we can continue to take your calls on the Montessori pedagogy and anything you would want to know about this pedagogy. Like, we have a lot of requests, a lot of people wanted to know more about it. So today we will only discuss questions around the Montessori pedagogy and your child's development from Montessori perspective. Other questions we can take for the rest of the whole week. All right. So it's 3:58 now. I have few announcements to make. For those of you who want to know more about Blue Blocks, where we follow Montessori school, feel free to reach out to Sheetal on 9009555053. And we do these admission related workshops on Saturdays. If you're interested, she will share the Zoom link for Saturday. So that we only do, we share those links only by invitation. That's not open for everybody. We wanted people who want to know more about Blue Blocks. We do a special session which is related to the admissions, which we only do on Saturdays. These Monday to Friday sessions are open for all, open for our Blue Blocks parents, non-Blue Blocks parents, grandparents, to anybody who would want to know more about child development. But those Saturday sessions are exclusively admission related. And we have our numbers are increasing by the day, in sense, we have a lot more new parents joining on these calls. I really want to acknowledge each one of you to help us to promote this. Some of you are part of the volunteering team, and if you're on the call today, my deep respect to each one of you. This really means a lot to us. Your support is what is getting us going. Even in this lockdown, we are able to reach out to few hundreds of parents. We are doing a lot of corporate sessions. We have a session planned in a company called RCZM sometime next week. We're in talks with 20 other companies. We are reaching out to every other company, HR. So if you think you can help us reach out to the HR in your company where we can do these sessions, We can do sessions which is very customized to the needs of the organization and employees, the age group, the topics. We can talk about pretty much every aspect of the child development. All right. So I'm unmuting everybody, and let's acknowledge everybody on this call for being part of these calls and who's committed to do great work with children. Let's acknowledge.
Thank you.
Much. Thank you so much.
All right. Let's take some questions on Montessori pedagogy. Like to go ahead. So we have a question on chat. This is very informative. Thanks. A question I have is about technology. Technology is a double-edged sword. And my personal view is that the lesser exposure to it early on, the better. There's enough time to catch up. Is there a universal application of technology across the Montessori format, or does it vary from institute to institute? So one of the parents has messaged this personally. You're absolutely right. Technology, let's push it for the later years. In the first 6 years, zero electronic exposure. 6 to 12, very minimal as possible, as less as possible. Like if you have something very interesting and there's no other way for you to show, once in a while, you can still use gadgets for children between 6 to 12. After 12, then you can start using significant amount if you think that there's an institute which can only do the sessions on computers. A lot of these boards nowadays are trying to focus on doing everything on computer, but till 12 years, I would want to avoid it as much as possible. Thanks, Vinay, for asking this question.
Thanks, Pawan. Very helpful response.
All right. Any other questions? You can post it in the chat. You can ask us directly.
Hi, this is Suganya here.
Yes, Suganya.
Suppose if we give the child Montessori education till 12 years, so how does a child cope up in other schools after 12 years? Or is there any other way?
So we are taking our schooling till grade 10, Suganya.
Okay.
And after 12, with the kind of work children do in Montessori, between 6 and 12 itself, they do so much of independent learning. They do research on their own. They start presenting things on their own. Post 12, they really don't need a teacher who teaches everything like how it was taught to us. Even in grade 8 or 9, every single lesson was taught by teachers, had to be taught by teachers. With our children post grade 6, they need maybe a teacher to teach some of those physics or chemistry or math concepts, but majority of the concepts they can actually learn all by themselves. So more than teachers, they would need those mentors who can mentor them, who can help them reach to their maximum potential. So a child who can learn independently, if you put the child in any system, any classroom, they will definitely learn, right? Our traditional mechanism, traditional system makes children totally dependent on the teacher. Now, that's a concern. Now, this child, if the child has to learn independently, the child just doesn't know how to learn. But a child who's trained to learn independently, and if somebody's teaching, that's never a concern. Did I answer, Sugna?
Yeah. I got it. Thank you.
All right. Who would like to go next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pawan, this is Divya.
Yes.
Yeah. My question is just vice versa. Now, if the student comes from traditional school to Montessori, how he can adjust?
Very interesting question. For a child, let's say, if you take your, how old is your child? Can I know, Divya?
9 years.
9 years. If you take your child to Disney World, will you have to worry that how will he enjoy, how will he play in Disney World? Will you have to?
No.
Why will you not worry?
because he likes it, he will enjoy, right?
And why? What does he like about it? Because it is totally designed to stimulate children's imagination. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
That is how exactly our Montessori elementary environment is. Nudula spoke so much around imagination. So our environments cater to what they want. So whether it's a traditional school child or a Montessori child, both children will love the Disney World equally, 9-year-olds, correct? Similarly, both children would love the Montessori environment equally because it caters to what they want. The environment is not about what the adult wants.
Okay.
Was I able to help you understand?
Yes, yes. And if the children are not interested in, because at the end of the day, you have to, as academics is also important in elementary. End of the day, if the children comes from traditional school and who are not interested in that, I mean, particular subjects, how do you create that interest?
Yeah, this is very interesting question, Divya. So now in the elementary environment, children work in groups. There is freedom for children to work in groups, and that is what is encouraged. So what happens is if there are 4 children in a group, there's always one child who doesn't like this subject, but there's some other child who likes that subject. Now this child wants to do math, this child wants to do English. So first they would do math and then they would do English. Now this child has to listen to this child because he has listened to this child and did math. Now he will do English because this child wants to do English.
Okay.
So that is how all the interest children who are interested in something, they also get to work. Children who are not interested in something, they will still get to work with most of the material and most of the concepts. Like,
Okay.
Dr. Maria Montessori, like she was a genius. She's like a real genius. Every concern you and I can think of, she has addressed it by understanding children's needs. She has understood every need of the child, and whatever outcome we want, she would try and define it, make the rules such that it happens very naturally and automatically. If the adult is asking the child to do English, if the child is not interested, then that starts to build resistance. But if their friend wants to do it, then that doesn't build resistance. They always know that once I will play, let's play cricket, after that we'll play football, because they have to cater to other children's interests as well.
Mhm. Actually, I'm feeling so bad. Why did I miss this Montessori methodology for my elder one? My younger one is in Montessori already. Now he's in 9 years. I wanted him to shift to this philosophy.
I'm very happy that at least with the younger one, you could give him the experience of Montessori. Really happy.
Yeah. Earlier also, I was, yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this Montessori philosophy for my elder one, but I was thinking 8 years back, I don't know whether if I get any transfer, whether I can have the same school over there. Maybe he will not adjust to the environment in that like traditional school sitting in one classroom and all. That's the reason I missed out. But this time I didn't got scared and I joined him, my younger one.
Good.
Yeah.
We will always have these limitations and constraints, but I'm happy that you could at least give it to the younger one. And for those of you who have this concern about what if I move out to other city, pretty much every city now has a Montessori school. Like Montessori is spreading big time all over the world. So you don't have to really worry about finding a school in that city which you move. All right. Thanks for
Yeah.
saying that.
Thank you. Thank you, Pawan.
Jyoti, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, as I told you that I am from Jaipur and my son has already completed his level 3 and now he has been shifted to the normal traditional school. He is facing a problem with that phonic sound and the normal ABCD. And
Correct.
now I'm thinking that what to do with that. I mean, how can I cope up with
Yeah.
those
So,
things?
yeah. See, now that you have moved to traditional school, now children will have to be taught those spellings. So whatever
Yes.
struggle you are facing, whatever struggle you think you have, I want you to get that majority of the children in the environment from non-Montessori background would also have the same struggle and challenge. So children now have to start learning those spellings because that is what the traditional teacher is expecting. Now, what I can tell you is, even if you teach in a traditional manner, our Montessori children will learn those spellings much better, faster than the traditional school children. And to further help the child with spellings, focus on reading, 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 reading. And when you're reading those books, put your finger below the word which you are reading, so that the child knows which word you are reading, the child is hearing, and then the child is seeing the spelling. The child might not see MAY may, but when you are underlining it, the visual impression of MAY will keep getting reinforced. So the more you read, the better their spellings will be. If you are training them, helping them practice with some of those words for spelling, they will still learn, but the number will always be very small. The best way to help them with spellings is a lot of reading, reading, and reading. Yeah? All right. Who would like to go next? Yes, Subhana.
Is there any limitation of this education system?
What do you mean by limitation?
Like, because even now, most of them, after 6 years, they change to normal school, traditional school.
Yeah. See, it's like, so when they go
So,
to traditional school, what helps them? See, what helps them is they are already way ahead of the other school children who have come from PP2 to grade 1. Other children would have done one digit addition, our children would have done multiple digit addition, multiple digit subtraction, and multiplication. So when they go to grade 1 of math, when they are doing math, some of our children have completed grade 1 math book in a week's time, all by themselves. Writing, other children are learning to write cursive, our children are already writing in cursive and writing words and sentences, while other children are just learning to write 2 word, 3 word phrases. So that gives them that comfort to cope up with the traditional system dynamics, because there's nothing much
okay.
to learn newly. They already are way ahead of what is being taught in grade 1. And that also helps them build confidence that, they are at par or better than, way ahead of other children.
Okay.
All right. Any other question?
After 10th standard, so will the schools do take Montessori children? Because there are some schools which they take only traditional.
So we are doing Cambridge program plus Montessori program. See, if you are running a school, you have to be affiliated to one of the boards. So we have affiliated to Cambridge board. Right from grade 6, they will be doing all those Cambridge exams, which they call as checkpoints.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, thank you.
Hindu Balakrishnan, please go ahead.
Hey, hi, Pavan. So I wanted to know, what is the right age for my child to be put into the Montessori school? He's only 8 months old.
So the right age is when he starts to walk independently, comfortably, which is around 12 months to 14 months. We take 14 months. We have a toddler environment where we take children who are walking. They don't need to speak. They don't need to be toilet trained. All that is very integral part of the program.
Okay. But Pavan, I'm based out of Chennai, so I know that Blue Blocks is not there in Chennai. So, what are the few things that I have to make a note before I put my child into Montessori school?
So, if you are putting your children into a primary program, which is for 2.5 to 6 years, the only expectation from the parents is to get children to be toilet trained at 2.5. If they have a toddler program, then you're not expected to train them, because between 1 to 2.5 is when they are fully getting toilet trained.
Okay.
Apart from that, any Montessori school will not look at anything beyond children being toilet trained.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Pavan.
Thanks. All right. Who would like to go next? Any other questions? So we have few people who have texted. One more query. Do you also train parents to import Montessori tools into the daily life. Unless the school environment is replicated at home, it may be self-defeating. This is from Vinay. No, Vinay, we strongly recommend that you do not have any of the Montessori material which is there at school. I'm a Montessori parent myself. I'm Montessori trained, but I don't have a single Montessori material at home. Once you have it at home, then there's not much of interest to explore that at school, and at home you will never be able to get them to make the best out of the material. So we strongly recommend no Montessori material at home. Now, how do you support the same Montessori philosophy at school? You have seen the color tablets video. So once that is introduced to your child, we give you a handout about what is this color tablet activity about, what development is it catering to, and how it will help your child. And then we also discuss about how you can help this learning further. Now we have shown red as a red color tablet and said this is red. Now you will connect that red in the environment. See, this is red, this is red. So you will reinforce. Then you can do a lot of color based activities, mixing colors, playing with the colors, and do a lot of interesting activities, so that the concepts introduced in a Montessori environmental material is consolidated at home by applying all their learning. Any learning which is not applied will not have much value. So what we are expecting from you is how you can apply that learning in real time. When we introduce leaf and the kind of laminas, different laminas in the Montessori environment, you will know that these are the different kind of laminas which are introduced. And then in real time, whenever you find any interesting lamina, you will show that leaf and say, this is this kind of lamina. And then you can send that leaf to the school and child will connect real leaf to the laminas which are there in the material. So that will be the parents' role, Vinay. But that was pretty interesting question. How about dance, music, or art getting integrated to Montessori? As part of elementary program, we do dance, music, art, sports, theater, karate, and much, much more. So we are doing a session on how do we build innovative minds. Which day are we doing that, Munira?
We are doing it on Thursday, Pawan.
On Thursday, we are doing 5 insights into building innovative minds. There we'll be talking about how we have designed our own innovation program to stimulate that innovative ability on top of it, on top of Montessori and the music, art, dance, sports, etc. So thanks for asking that, Surya. Is it okay if child starts Montessori at 6 to 12? Yes. We do take certain percentage of children directly in elementary environment. It is actually recommended that we take certain percentage so that there is a diversity in the classroom. Yeah, great.
Yeah, Pawan, this is Divya again.
Yeah,
How far the teachers are trained for elementary?
very interesting question. All our lead teachers, be it toddler environment, primary environment, elementary environment, they are all AMI certified teachers. AMI is Association Montessori International, which was set up by Dr. Maria Montessori in Netherlands in 1920s, which governs all international Montessori teacher training programs. And each of our lead teachers are AMI certified. Without that, we can never deliver Montessori program the way it is designed.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Are we done? Any other questions? Shall we wait for 10 seconds? All right. Looks like we are done for the